maybe why some of this stuff did happen.
As far as did I do something to her, I didn't do anything to her. I mean, I guess I could have taken her to the ER sooner, but I didn't know. If she, I don't know. I know I didn't do anything.
And if you did?
I'm just telling you, I didn't do anything. And that's what I feel like you're insinuating I did. I may not be the best mother in the world, because I do wait a little longer before I take him to the doctor, but...
Naturally, Diane denied the accusations, and after she did, the detective focused on the reasons that Diane may have wanted to kill off her husband and children. In other words, he focused on her motive.
I think Marv, he's having these infidelities. He's not working. You've got the whole burden of the family. You got to take care of everybody. You have all this stress and pressure on you to raise your kids, to put food on the table. You're the working one. He's out. He's drinking. He's using drugs. He's doing things he shouldn't be doing. I think a person just gets pushed to where, you know what, people just can't take it anymore. I think it's just, you got pushed so far, you had all this weight on your shoulders, because you're not a bad person, are you? No, I don't think you are.
The detective played this interrogation smart. He took a sympathetic and relatable approach, and his strategy ultimately worked. With regard to Sarah and her illness, Diane admitted that she knew a lot more than she'd been telling. Diane explained that she had been hounding Sarah for weeks about getting a job, and after one particular argument between them, Sarah did something that was very strange.
We had been arguing. She got really mad at me. And I think she went out in the garage and was antifreeze. Because she was commenting, it's like, well, that kills cats. It's like, yeah, this will kills people.
Okay.
And I was so mad at her that, yeah, I waited before I took her to the hospital.
Diane claimed that in some bizarre act of rebellion, Sarah went into the family garage and started drinking antifreeze. Yes, antifreeze. Not only that, but Diane also claimed that Mark and Sean had done the same thing. What a weird family.
To put it really short and sweet, I knew they were drinking antifreeze. And I was so mad at them, I didn't want to take them in. I'm a horrible mother.
Diane, you knew that they were drinking antifreeze. You knew that. They didn't. We both know that. You knew, Diane, that they were drinking antifreeze because you were giving it to them.
The detective quickly shut down Diane's explanation for what happened to Mark, Sean, and Sarah. And at this point, he had pretty much figured out what had happened. I'm sure a lot of you probably have too. Diane had poisoned her husband and 2 of her children with antifreeze to the point where 2 of them had died and another was about to die. Eventually, after being unable to maintain her ridiculous explanation, Diane came clean. She admitted to what she had done and explained how she did it.
How much would you put in?
Just a little.
And what were you putting it in? So you were putting it in Mark's Gatorade. You were putting it in Sean's Coke. Just regular Coke. And what about Sarah? Regular Coke. Okay.
She loved Coke.
Okay. And you were only doing it once a day? Because you thought that's all you needed? Okay. When they weren't passing right away, did you eventually start to give them more and more?
regret doing it. I really do. I've screwed up everybody. I've screwed up my whole family.
Why did you decide that you were going to use antifreeze to do it? Why not some other means?
Because I read online it was pretty easy to do.
Okay. From what I understand, it almost tastes good. Is that correct?
That's what they say.
Okay.
The deadly ingredient in antifreeze is a chemical compound known as ethylene glycol. Some of you true crime nerds may already know that. It is colorless, odorless, and has kind of a sweet taste. Don't try it. Don't try it. I know you want to. I know some of you are a little dumber than others, but don't do it, please. You're gonna get me in trouble. It's also not typically detected when an autopsy is performed. In order to find ethylene glycol, a medical examiner has to specifically look for it, which is another reason it's commonly used as a poison. Ingesting this compound can quickly cause several fatal health problems, including dysrhythmias and heart failure. In case this isn't obvious, ethylene glycol poisoning is a pretty awful way to die. You wouldn't want to try it at all anyway. There's much easier ways. When your internal organs start shutting down, it's not a fun time. It's not going to be good. It's actually quite painful. According to Diane, for several weeks, she'd been slipping small doses of antifreeze into her husband's Gatorade. After he died from the poisoning, she did the same thing to her son, Sean. The only difference was that Sean preferred Coca-Cola over Gatorade. After Sean was dead, Diane then began poisoning her oldest daughter, Sarah, by slipping antifreeze into her soda as well. What kind of a mother would harm her own kids for her own benefit? Oh, I don't know. Lots of them. Just gonna let that sit there for a minute. As far as motive was concerned, Diane had a different reason for each of her three victims. In the case of her husband, Diane explained she simply hated his guts.
Why didn't you call an ambulance or bring him to the hospital at that point?
Because by then I hated his guts.
Hated his guts. I understand. And how much was his life insurance policy?
It was only $20,000.
20,000, and you were able to use that money to get into your new house. Okay. So,
As for her son, Diane explained that Sean had become too much of a pest, and she simply couldn't deal with him anymore.
Sean would be interfering with whatever I would do, to the point where he was getting into my work. You get to the point where you just pull out your hair, because I didn't know what else to do with it.
Finally, Diane explained that she decided to also murder her oldest daughter because Sarah refused to get a job, and Diane didn't want to pay off Sarah's college loans. I mean, not wanting to pay her college loans makes you do all kinds of stupid things, doesn't it?
Sarah's a difficult child to deal with.
I understand.
And I've been kind of putting pressure on her to, you need to get out, get a job. Your college bills are coming due. I don't want to pay for them,
Pretty relatable, right? If your kid has college loans and you don't want to pay them, just slip a little antifreeze into their soda. Problem solved.
Diane's motives for the killings were just as strange and bizarre as just the epitome of this entire case. When talking about Mark, she said that this got to the point that she hated him. And where it really got strange and bizarre was with the children. She said Sean was a huge burden, and I even asked if he was a pest, and she said, well, he was worse than that. He was worse than a pest. And then when discussing Sarah, she had college loans that she needed to pay, but she wouldn't get a job, and so that's what led to her poisoning Sarah. It was really stunning to hear her discuss what led her to killing off and poisoning the family members.
Diane admitted to what she had done and explained why she did it, but even so, there were still a few questions. First being, if Diane wanted to kill Sarah, why did she eventually bring her to a hospital? And second, why did Diane spare her other two daughters?
What was the reason for bringing her when she was, because you even said, she was so bad, you thought she was going to die and you had to carry her. And did Rachel, was she the one that said, hey, let's take her to the hospital?
Actually, both of us thought the same thing at the same time. It's like, let's take her in.
Had you been giving any to her? What about Brianna? Why not those two?
Because I love them. And I wish I had done it ever. So stupid.
Diane claimed that it was Rachel who prompted Diane to take Sarah to the hospital. Speaking of Rachel, after Diane confessed, the detectives were given the awful task of breaking all of this bad news to her.
I brought your mom in today and interviewed her at length for quite a long time. And basically, what has happened is your mom has admitted to killing your dad and your brother and trying to kill your sister. She had been giving your father small doses of antifreeze in his drinks. Same thing with your brother, and same thing with your sister Sarah. Just take some time.
God.
It's a lot to process. I don't even know how you actually process that, to be honest with you, Rachel. Did you think there was anything going on there with Mom at all? I mean, did that thought ever even cross your mind? She never gave any kind of indication that she was just at her wit's end with the three of them at any one time that you could remember?
Man, I'm just frustrated.
Right, yeah.
Rachel Stouty was a 22-year-old unemployed college student. In a matter of months, she had lost her father, her brother, and her oldest sister, and now her mom was being locked up for murder. Can you fucking imagine what that's like? As a result, the responsibility of caring for 11-year-old Brianna Stouty fell on Rachel's 22-year-old shoulders.
Like from the child advocacy center, we'll talk to her briefly, and then after they talk to her a little bit, if it's okay with you, we'll just release her to you. You're grown up, she needs to be with you. She doesn't need to be anywhere else. She needs to be with you.
After Rachel was made aware of this horrific situation, the detective left the interview room and Rachel broke down, understandably.
Dear God.
Sadly, the bad news that Rachel had just gotten was only going to get worse, because there was yet another horrible twist in this story. Not only had Rachel's mom poisoned Rachel's dad, brother, and sister, but it turned out that Diane hadn't done this all on her own. As the investigation continued, the police learned that Diane Stouty had an accomplice.
Get huge savings at Wrecker & Berger's Home Appliance Superstores in Tri-County, Beechmont, and Montgomery. Save on the area's largest selection of GE appliances. GE refrigerators, stoves, dishwashers, laundry pairs, and more are in stock and ready for immediate delivery to your home. Visit thecomfortzone.com today for the best deals in home appliances.
The Comfort Zone.
Alright. Man. Got some stuff done. I'm kind of 50-50. I feel like I got some stuff accomplished, but I also added a couple of things to my list. Oof. Never ends. Woke up early this morning. We were doing some time trials for CincyLink. That took about 5 hours of my day, and then came back, looked at passenger data. Really just trying to check that the sensors are working. And come to find out, looks like there's a couple of vehicles that have faulty sensors, which I get to work on now. But I'm glad I found them before it got worse. And these passenger counters are really important. They, agency like ours are dependent on ridership data for funding. Not sure how the algorithm is set up, but supposedly our ridership factors into it and determines how much money you're going to get. It's a good job though. Good mixture of technical, social, political, just a tad bit. And a wide variety of technical too. Some hardware, just kind of basic Excel manipulation. Looking for visual patterns in the data. And the social stuff, sending off professional emails, and writing professional documents. budgeting. And talking to drivers, getting their comments on the route, talking them through some of the route issues, getting several different opinions on the route, figuring out what's the average, get buy-in from the drivers if the change is necessary. And then just general talking in the office, you know, build camaraderie, chit-chat, laugh a little. Bonding. That's an old truck. to the end. Almost home. Well, till next time.